Hello, true duelists. My name is Craig V, and as always, welcome to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Update. That's right, it's ban list time. Konami of the TCG has officially announced a new ban list set to take effect on February the 13th of this month. This means that it will not be impacting the upcoming Team YCS in Mexico City, nor the YCS in Lyon, Paris in France. Which, I guess I just disrespected French people. Whoops. What else is old? Apologies to the French. Still, this is good for players of the YCS, seeing as how they don't have to alter their deck lists or strategy for it, you know, a week before it's going to be taking place. But it is an interesting one. So let's just jump into it. There are 4 cards banned, and all of them are, in my opinion, good to reasonable. Starting first with Barrier Statue of the Stormwind. This card fucking sucks to play against. It's really good otherwise, but it is absolutely abhorrent to have to be facing it, and I have no complaints about it being banned. And if you have complaints about it being banned, you're probably really fucking annoying or just a terrible person, and in either case, I'm glad you're upset, because fuck that card. Fuck Fluanda Rees, fuck that card, and fuck this shit. I'm moving on to the next one. That's a good ban. I never have to see it in the TCG or in Master Duel. Full support. Up next is the banning of Artifact Scythe. This is personally hilarious because in Team Yadalope's Yu-Gi-Oh! Rewind 2022, it's not out as I'm making this video, but I filmed a segment for it that might get put in, I don't know. And in it, it's about the best and worst thing to happen, and the thing I said is worst is that they didn't ban Artifact Scythe, which means if/when I appear in that video and I say, they didn't ban Scythe, everyone's gonna be like, you idiot, they did, you're wrong. And I wasn't wrong when I said it, but no one's gonna care about that. They're going to see someone say something that is presently wrong with no account for the passage of time and the actual production of making a video. So I'm looking forward to that. That's gonna be pretty funny. In actual gameplay, though, like, yeah, good. Fuck this thing as much as the Stormwind. It's not fun to play against. Both just say, nope, not playing Yu-Gi-Oh, just stop. And you have to, and that's miserable to play against. So again, if you're complaining about the lack of Scythe, suck my dice, that didn't work at all. Anyways, it's bad, and that means that banning it is good. So big ups for Konami for banning these 2. The other 2 cards banned are a little more presently meta relevant. I guess Stormwinds is kind of presently relevant in Flu, but Tearlaments and Sprites have both been hit. Sprite loses Sprite Elf, which for me I'm fine with because I never got around to buying the card, even though I probably should have as someone who plays Paleozoic Frog, but still, it being banned is a reasonable hit to Sprite. This card is insanely good, and it's insanely generic, all things considered, only needing 1, 2 of whatever level or you use to make it. So that made it playable not just in Sprite, but also like in Tearlament with the level 2 Tearlament card. So it was very generic and very good and very annoying. And Sprite is the second best deck of that format. That's now this current one, but will be done in a week. So yeah, it needs a hit, and I think Elf is a pretty strong hit to the deck. Will it stop the deck? I don't think so, but it definitely hinders it, so that is a reasonable hit in my eyes. And now on to the truly impactful limits and bans, because there's one more ban and a whole lot of limits, and each of them has to do with Tearlament. Tearlament Kit Kalos has received the Axe of Despair. Get it? That's a Yu-Gi-Oh card. That shit's banned now, which makes sense. It was banned in the OCG. It's like insanely good. What do they call it? The Yoinky Sploinky? Milling 5 in the mill deck is pretty good. So banning it, I think everyone knew that was an inevitability. That was going to happen. It's the easiest one to fuse into, and it's the one that gets so much rolling, so of course it's banned. But speaking of milling 5 being a bit much, all the Ishizu cards are limited. and every tier limit name not named Rhino Heart is limited. That means Tier Shizu has received 7 limits and 1.5 ban, if you count Sprite Elf as a tier limit banning as well. So at least 1 ban, arguably 2, and 7 limits to the best deck of the format. Now, I don't think anyone's really too shocked at this. If you've paid attention to the OCG, if you've watched the Yu-Gi-Oh! Update Fridays on YGO Strats, you've been aware that tier limits is also kicking and still topping in the OCG after its massacre over there. With mostly similar hits, it's still a viable top deck in the OCG. Maybe that's just because OCG players are bad, maybe it's because they just don't care and want to keep using them, or maybe they just really like the mermaid girls. Who knows? Either way, this is a tremendous hit to Tier Shizu and will presumably knock it down from the Tier 0 status. I don't see this being the only deck to play going forward in the February 13th, 2023 format. As to whether or not it's good, fucking yeah, probably. Look, I get it. Tier Shizu is a skill-based, very intense and thoughtful and player, knowledge rewarding matchup. I'm not gonna refute that. I am going to say if you aren't playing tier limits, it fucking sucks to have to go up against every weekend at locals. So from my very biased, casual, scrub-ass, bad player Yu-Gi-Oh! Dumb shit mentality, I don't mind it. And broadly, it has to happen at some point. The meta needs to change up at some point to keep this game fresh and interesting. I don't think anyone really wants to play Tier Shizu until the end of time. Plus, the ban list isn't fucking new here. We all knew this was gonna happen. We've all seen how good it's been in the OCG with its limits, and this is probably the only meaningful way to hit the deck, seeing as how every fucking card mills something and then has another effect in the graveyard of like, oh, and now we can fusion summon, or the shufflers, but I digress. This is a very, very powerful deck, and if you, like me, had a playset of the Ishizu cards, congratulations, you now have 3 playsets of the Ishizu cards. Maturia players molding, maybe? I don't know. The shufflers were annoying, and it's probably good for go. I can maybe play Phantom Knight again. That's exciting for me, but I digress. That is a whole lot of hits and a whole lot of sensibility to these hits. It's inevitable that these are the type of hits needed, and who knows, maybe it's still not enough. The OCG hints at exactly that. Whether or not the TCG players adapt to that same sort of mentality remains to be seen, but that is the case. There's also the limit to Ancient Fairy Dragon that will be in effect on March 10th, is it? That is going to be a card coming back. With the errata, it's a lot less abusable for field spells, and it validates my ultimate rare. So overall, I think that's fine. I know a number of people who want Ancient Fairy back for that little bit of extension turn 1 in Wombo combo decks, and I'm okay with it. And it also means we're probably getting a reprint on March 10th in some set. So I don't know what that is off the top of my head, but I bet you we're getting it in something. Shoutouts to Ghosts from the Past 3, Ancient Fairy Dragon, Ghost Rare, only errata. You did it for Firewall Dragon, Konami, fucking do it again for this one. Do it again, it'd be funny. And on to the semi-limits. There's none, fuck you. The unlimits, however, include a number of cards that make sense. Nature is healing, the earth is returning to itself. Destrudo, O-Lion, and Jet Synchron return to 3, which is neat, it's nifty. Aurora Dawn and Hulk are banned, who gives a shit? Give Jet Synchron all the fun it needs. And what else was there? Yata-Garasu's at 3? Wow, isn't that crazy? Nothing changes. There, Litho-Sagam, if you pronounce it that way, who knows how I pronounce it like that, is now at 3 again, which is neat. Dinosaur players might like it. That's about the only deck I can think of that plays that card. And now I'm going to do a horrible cut because I wrote down the cards and I forgot the one I was going to talk about. So here we go. Whoa, what a flawless transition. No, I did not at all forget about the Spiral Resort or Servant of Endymion going back to 3. Resort's probably fine. Master Plan is banned. Double Helix is banned, I believe it is. Quick Fix is limited. Spiral's been pretty gutted. Giving them a little bit more consistency is not the end of the world. The deck is just as meh as it has been, just a little bit more for it. That's fine. Spyro players, have your fun. I assume you didn't play in 2017, because why would you want more of that otherwise? Still, Servant of Endymions, fine. They don't have Electromite. It was kind of an unnecessary hit at the time. I don't remember anyone being like, thank God Servant's gone. Pendulum just has a few more tools and a little more consistency to its name. And that brings us to the comedy of the show, because Pendulum, it's kind of fucked in the current format, because, I don't know if you're aware of it, Photon Hypernova is a set, and it just released. And it released this, well, it didn't release the Kashtira, but it did buff the Kashtira tremendously. And Kashtira do this thing where they lock out zones entirely. So you can just lock out both the Pendulum zones from the Pendulum player, and then they're fucked wholly and entirely. And I can't believe nothing in Kashtira was hit in any sense. I understand why they want to push the product, but I figured like Fenrir's been seeing play outside of Cash as you know, Pankratops 2 as they call it. So if you bought the pre-order priced Kashtira deck for like $1,000, apparently you're the genius and you made the smart investment, because I bet you those went up, because Kashtira is wholly unchecked and is the bestest, strongest, newest deck of the format. Will it be the best, strongest deck definitively? No, but it'll be the best, strong, new deck. Do you see what I'm saying here? I understand it loses to Regeki. I'm just saying I don't always fucking draw Regeki. So I'm not looking forward to it. Kashtira is annoying as shit to play against. Macro and you don't get zones. Suck my bones, you know what I'm saying? Suck them dry, because I want to die. That's how I feel about Kashtira. So overall, yeah, I'm a casual chump, it would seem, these last few formats. C'est la vie. Kashtira is running wild, and there's something you might have noticed. There's not a single Bestial hit. Now, Bestials don't really do much against Kashtira, so c'est la vie. Maybe this is because Konami watched Jesse Cotton's video, wherein he went over the fact that maybe Bestials aren't as good as we all think they are. I guess so, because they didn't need to be touched there. As someone who wants to play Phantom Knight again, however, they're even worse than we think they are. Please, everyone, agree with me. I just want to summon Torn Scales. Regardless, Bestials are running wild. There is a new one with another solid effect to tribute and do some spot removal. Bestial Baldrake, I believe is its name. It's a peasant rare for you folks. Pick them up now, it's strong. And other than that, this ban list is, you know, I got to this point in the video, how do I feel about this? Mostly good. There are changes that I would also like to see. You know, I wouldn't mind a Magnum at limit. Very biased, very biased. DD Crow on legs is kind of obnoxious. Dark and Light are two very, very common attribute decks, even if the best decks right now aren't all abusing Light and Dark, namely, I don't know, Flu and Kashtira. Sprite kinda is, so. It's a good list for doing what needed to be done to tier limits. I think that is a universal truth. I don't know anyone who's gonna disagree. Some might say it's too soon. This is definitely far sooner than I thought it would be, but I mean, we are in a tier 0 format presently until the 13th. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've just been gaslit into thinking that it's fine by people who are good at this game. That's a very strong possibility. Shit, I gaslight myself half the time. That's just facts. Regardless, I do think it's overall a good list, if only for banning Stormwinds and Scythe. Fuck those cards. And it didn't hit Instant Fusion. I can't believe it. That genuinely surprises me. I thought Instant Fusion was dead for sure, but I like it as a one-of. I like throwing down a Thousand Eyes Restrict from time to time. I love when very old cards can still pop up and be decent. So yeah, that's about it. This is Ban List Reaction 6412. We'll see how it does. These feel very played out. And as always, when making content, you gotta want, who gives a shit? I do, because I play the game. And so there are my takes. I'd love to know some of yours. My name is Gregory Feganite. Don't look at my birth certificate. Thank you all for watching, and hit subscribe if you've noticed that I didn't think of a joke for this, so just hit subscribe anyways. Hit subscribe. Hit subscribe. They just took tier limit out around back and said, would you look at that? And fucking killed them.